Hello and welcome. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are decoding the deception, and we are here today again, back in the book of Revelation, and we're still in chapter 21. We're going to finish up chapter 21. Now, we're going to do this in two parts. I like to keep these videos shorter if possible, but there is just so much here to cover as we look at, and you see the thumbnail there on the screen, the New Jerusalem, the Grand Tour. And that's, I think, the best way, maybe not the best way, but it is an effective way to get our minds around what's going on here, because there's so much that comes into play. And in this part of John's vision, and let's not forget what this is. John is there and he is being shown things. He is taken places that humans on this side of the veil that is death don't get to see. And there are times, especially here in chapter 21 and 22, where he is seeing the final outcome, where he struggles for the words to describe what he is seeing. And we're going to talk about that, but keep that in mind, even if I forget to point it out every time it's going on. There's this fantastic language that's used in John's attempt with the power of the Holy Spirit to take human words, language, thought, concepts, and convey what it is he is seeing, what he is being shown. And if that is the case, if it's so amazing and so awesome that he struggles for the words to convey it, what does that tell us about what we look forward to? Does it not build in us a great anticipation of that glory and grace that we will be a part of? So let's jump into the text. I am going to, in this section, try to pull up different images, look at different things, show you pictures. And all of those pictures, I'll say this before, all of them are attempts to describe what John is seeing, and he's struggling to come up with the words to describe what he sees. And what we're going to look at today, time to time, are artistic renderings of John's attempts to describe the indescribable. So they're interpreted different ways, but I find them for myself, I find them helpful to convey what is being talked about. Okay, let's jump in. Then one of the seven angels who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues came to me and talked with me, saying, "Come, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife." We'll stop right there. Now, this is, to me, very intriguing, and I spent a good bit of time thinking about it. Why is it, and we've got, if you're familiar with my videos, I've used this image before in talking about the seven angels with the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues of God's wrath. Familiar concept. But here, the question is this: why one of these guys? We're here in the New Jerusalem section, this awesome, amazing stuff. And the seven angels with the bowls filled with the wrath of God that were poured out on men. And I've got another image here that I used to talk about this, and make no mistake, I didn't come up with any of these images. I can conceptually come up with some things, but I can barely draw stick people. So I find artistic renderings that others have produced and use those. But the seven bowls are about wrath. They are about the judgment that comes, intensifies at the very end upon unbelievers and all of those, because you see here the dragon and the beast and the false prophet. That's what these two hippie guys down here are supposed to represent. The wrath poured out on all of the opposition to God. So the question presents itself, why is it one of these angels used to point out this amazing, grand, and glorious stuff? Important concept. I've shared this before. What is damnation, judgment upon unbelievers? The opposition to God is blessing and glory and grace for the believer. From the altar, that place to which the prayers of the saints ascend, from there, coals were taken from the altar and fire thrown down on the earth. We have this opposing concept. What is glorious for you is damnation for those who oppose God. So that is brought to mind in having one of these seven angels, one of the guys who had the seven bowls filled with the seven last plagues. It's that angel, one of those guys, who comes and says, I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. I've got to point it out, Lamb. And I found another one just a few hours ago as I was studying again, wrapping things up in preparation for teaching today. I've always said there were 30 instances of Jesus being referred to in the book of Revelation as the Lamb. But there's one more. In 21:14, we see now the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. Lamb is the term used most frequently for Jesus in the book of Revelation. I will show you the bride, the Lamb's wife. Let's not forget this. With all of the amazing things we're going to be looking at, we are what's being described. Let's get out of our minds, or at least expand our minds, to get around this concept. This New Jerusalem, it's us. We did the video a little while back about the New Jerusalem identified. That thumbnail for that video is here. We are the New Jerusalem. We are the fulfillment of all of the things that God is working to bring about. So we can think of it in two ways. Yeah, it's a place. It's this great and amazing city and all of that, but it is also us. And you can do that with picture language. If I could draw, which I can't, but an artist can draw a picture making someone look like whatever they want to convey a concept. That's what we have going on here. So it takes a different approach to think about things this way, but it makes it clear. It's restated here. The New Jerusalem, this heavenly city coming down from God, is the Lamb's wife, the bride. Who is the bride of Christ? The church is the bride of Christ. Verse 10, and he carried me away in the Spirit to a great and high mountain and showed me the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God, having the glory of God. Her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Also, she had a great and high wall with 12 gates, and 12 angels at the 12 gates, and names written on them, which are the names of the 12 tribes of the children of Israel. 3 gates on the east, 3 gates on the north, 3 gates on the south, and 3 gates on the west. We'll continue on. We'll just read the whole text. Now the wall of the city had 12 foundations, and on them were the names of the 12 apostles of the Lamb. And he who talked with me had a gold reed to measure the city, its gates, and its wall. The city is laid out as a square, and its length is as great as its breadth. And he measured the city and with the reed, 12,000 furlongs. Its length, breadth, and height are equal. Then he measured its wall, 144 cubits, according to the measure of a man, which is of an angel. The construction of the wall was of jasper, and the city was pure gold like clear glass. The foundations of the wall of the city were adorned with all kinds of precious stones. The first foundation was jasper, the second sapphire, the third chalcedony, the fourth emerald, the fifth sardonyx, the sixth sardius, the seventh chrysolite, the eighth beryl, the ninth topaz, the 10th chrysoprase, the 11th jacinth, and the 12th amethyst. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Each individual gate was of one pearl, and the street of the city was pure gold, like transparent glass. I tell you, I searched different search engines. I hunted. I tried to find an image where some artist has made a real attempt to draw, to paint, whatever, use Photoshop to come up of what a street of pure gold, like transparent glass, looks like. Does not that sound like John trying to describe the indescribable? Transparent gold. How can gold be transparent like glass? It's so cool. It's so amazing. It's so awesome that our language can't describe it. And we think of Paul, who was taken up into the third heaven. And what did he hear? He heard things that could not be uttered. So we're going to go through and we're going to contemplate this great city. But first, let's talk about this. And he carried me away in the spirit. This angel, one of the seven, carried him away in the spirit. This, that there are in John's construction of the book of Revelation, it can rightly be said that there are 4 divisions. And each one begins with this, John being in the spirit, either in the spirit or carried away in the spirit. In Revelation 1:10, we're told, John says, I was in the spirit on the Lord's day, and I heard behind me a loud voice as of a trumpet. That's when he has Jesus appearing to him, sword coming out of the mouth, feet like bronze fire, all of that. And he is given the job of writing down the letters to the 7 churches. Revelation 4:2, right after that, immediately I was in the spirit, and behold, a throne set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. That section, chapter 4:2, runs all the way through Revelation 17:2. In 17:3, he says, so he carried me, another one of the angels, so he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sitting on a scarlet beast, which was full of names of blasphemy. That's the great prostitute, the whore of Babylon. That section runs from 17 up until now. And now we have this. He was carried away, this angel carried him away in the spirit. So I'm not going to do it today, but after I complete this journey through the book of Revelation, I'll be going back and looking at different things. I don't think my teaching on the book of Revelation is probably ever really going to come to an end, because there is so much that is here. But one of the things I want to do is take a look at how these different sections kind of interrelate, and how that structure, what it might tell us about the understanding of what's in those different sections, because I have not focused on that in this first pass through the book of Revelation. This first pass through of the book of Revelation that has taken me thus far 5 years. It's taken 5 years to get to chapter 21, verse 9. I'm laughing at myself there. But he carried him away where? Where did he carry him away? He carried him away to a great and high mountain. We could pass right by that. We'd miss that. There's all this other fantastic stuff going on. Stop and look at everything. Stop and look at everything. It's all there for a reason. A great and high mountain. And it is there that he sees the great city, the holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. And I should say, he's talked about the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven from God. We might say that this is, as the title of the video says, the grand tour. We saw it. Now we're going to zoom in and focus on it. Why? Because it's so important. This is our eternal destiny. The Holy Spirit says, let's spend some time Let's spend some time talking about this. But it comes down on a great and high mountain. This is the Lord's mountain. But why a mountain? Why a mountain? Where was Eden? Where was Sinai? Or what was Sinai? Where is Zion? Where did the transfiguration take place? How about the ascension? Mountain, 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 mountain. Gods live on mountains. Gods interact with human beings on mountains. This isn't a throwaway concept here. This is interaction between God and man. And just like the transfiguration, it's taking place on a mountain. And he showed me the great city, the New Jerusalem, the Holy Jerusalem, descending out of heaven from God. And what do we know about this? And I'm going to go make sure, got these images here. I want to make sure we look at them. This is John seeing that great city coming down out of heaven from God. This is just one artist's rendering of what that city looks like. We will be seeing more. But it's having the glory of God. Her light was like a most precious stone, like a jasper stone, clear as crystal. Again, we've got this concept of a stone that's like so shiny that it's clear as crystal, these things that can't be described. We're going to go into detail on what that light was, but I want you to be thinking about the light, the glory, the Shekinah, all of those things. One thing we have here, I've forgotten to bring this up. I meant to do it at the beginning. Found this image. I love this image. We've got all these different strands, these different threads. And here in this section in Revelation, and we see this all through the scriptures, but these different threads that have been throughout the scriptures referred to here in Revelation, in this section about the Holy Jerusalem, the consummation, the fulfillment of all things. And we've seen where they're interconnected before, and we could see that back here. You see, they're intertwined, but here they're woven clearly together. Everything is coming together in finality, in completion here in the book of Revelation. And I think that this image does a good job of conveying that concept. We're going to go through and just start looking at some of these images I've pulled together because I think that they help with conveying the important truths that are here. This is the image of the new city, the New Jerusalem from our thumbnail. And I like this image. That's why I used it. But they're all, again, different artists rendering of what the New Jerusalem, this thing that is us in our eternal dwelling with God. Where is God now? God's in heaven, but where else is he? Christ in us. God is in us. The Holy Spirit is in us. Do you see how this city is this concept? It's not just a place. It's a reality. And we, God being with us, in us, among us, is part of that reality. We really have to stop and think about things differently here. Here we've got the image of the walls with, and this again, just another artist's rendering, but we've got the walls with the pearl. And there are 12 gates, we're told. We'll get to that and talk about it more. But it says that there are on each side 3 gates with the names, with what? The names of the 12 tribes of Israel. So we've got 12 entrances, each one a gate made out of a gigantic pearl, guarded by an angel, just as there were 12 camps around the presence and the abode of the Lord that was the tabernacle. They were told how to arrange their camps of the different tribes around the tabernacle, the presence of God. And that's what we've got there in that pillar of cloud, light, the Shekinah, the glory of God that would appear there. The composition of the city is made up of believers. That's what's represented by the 12 tribes. And we're not going to get into Jews and Jerusalem and what really is Jerusalem and what isn't. That's not in the purview of our video today, but isn't it interesting? How are they arranged here? There's the presence of God, and in a very real sense, God was with them. He traveled with them. He led them. When this pillar would rise up and begin to move, they packed up camp and they began to go where that took them. But they were arranged when they stopped around the presence of the Lord. Now, the 12 tribes are connected with these entrances into the New Jerusalem, the great and holy city. It's more than just being there, it's being in there. Another concept with the walls. And the walls, 144 cubits high. Notice 144, what's that? 12 squared. 12 times 12 is 144. 144 cubits is about 200 feet. Walls, 200 feet high. What's the idea? Security, safety, nothing's getting in that isn't supposed to get in. That's talked about at the end of our text. All of these images and the numbers have significance. They're conveying concepts and ideas. 12 tribes, 12 apostles, 12 layers of the foundation. And here we have an artist's rendering of those different gems that are the foundations. What we don't have on this are the names of the 12 apostles. Now, there's something very interesting here, and we can look at this and skip right past it and not think about it. What's one of the names that would have been on the 12 foundations? John's name, the guy who's seeing this, just like no doubt the 12 apostles are part of the 24 elders sitting around the throne. John was seeing himself in those images. Very, very interesting concept there. We're told that the city is a cube. It's described as square, but then the dimensions are given as it being a cube. Now, how does that work? It's not a real city in the sense that we think of it. It is a real reality, but the picture is conveying a truth, an important message for us. What is a cube? A cube is perfect. It's complete. It's all equal. And the way numbers and things are used in the scriptures consistently, and we've talked about that on numerous occasions through the book of Revelation, things that are cubed, squared, that's perfection, fulfillment. Everything's there that's supposed to be there. Nothing is lacking. That is the message here. We're going to go back and look at the text again, but we're going to keep flicking through the images here. Cube, a cube. Here's a really cool cutaway of what Herod's temple looked like. Truly an amazing structure. And in here, this is the holy place. There you've got the altar outside and the great sea. But here is, in here, the Holy of Holies. And in the tabernacle and in the temple, guess what? The Holy of Holies, that place where God was. The high priest only went in once a year into the presence of the Lord, and that with a whole lot of preparation that made him fit for holy space. What were the dimensions of the Holy of Holies? It was a cube, equal in height, width, and depth, just like the New Jerusalem, our eternal reality with God. And I think that's the best way to think of it, is our eternal reality with God. We'll think about it more that way than as a place or even a time. How big is it? I like these pictures. I had looked and looked and looked for things back some time ago when I taught on the book of Revelation. Somebody used Post-it notes. Do you see those are Post-it notes? But they're graphically representing how big the city is described as being. You take the number of stadia or furlongs, depending on which translation you're using, and you do the math, and people's math will vary on that as to what a stadia or a furlong was exactly, but there's not a huge variation. But when you multiply it times 12,000, guess what, or 1,200, guess what? You get 1,380 miles. This picture of this city is 1,380 miles cubed. Now, some people do the math and they come up with 1,500, but that's the idea of it being 1,500 miles tall. Now let's see if I can find my note. Okay. So I used Google Earth and took 1,380 miles. I'm here in the Georgia area, so I use Atlanta. This city, if you were to set it on the United States on the map, and we're not getting into the flat Earth thing and globe stuff, not even touching it. So don't leave any comments on it because that's not what this is about. If this cube were set on a map, it would be from Atlanta heading west to Alpine, Arizona, and then north from Alpine, Arizona to Prince Albert, Saskatchewan, and then from there east from Prince Albert, Saskatchewan to the middle of the province of Ontario, and then back down south to Atlanta. That's 1,400 miles square, and then that high. How would that even work? Are there going to be elevators, escalators? How do you get around? That's not the point. The point is, it's really awesome. It's really amazing. It's really big, meaning there's room for everybody, and it's big in the sense of importance. Let's talk about this for a moment. We've talked about the 12 foundations and those foundations. With the 12 foundations being from the apostles of the Lamb, let's look at Ephesians 2:19-20. Paul, talking about the church, says, "Now therefore you are no longer strangers and foreigners, but fellow citizens with the saints and members of the household of God, having been built on the foundation of what? Of the apostles and prophets, Jesus Christ himself being the chief cornerstone." Again, these threads that we see throughout the narrative of Scripture being wrapped up in final form here at the close of the book of Revelation. Interestingly, with the measuring rod, the golden reed. Why is it gold? Why not? Because it's really cool. And this is heaven. Why wouldn't it be gold? Why have a wooden yardstick? It's going to be gold. But interestingly, earlier, John was told, he was given a measuring rod and told to measure the city. And I think that was Revelation 12. It's not here in this note. You can tell I've got a whole bunch of notes here. Maybe it's this one. 11:1-2. I remembered correctly. He was told to measure the temple of God. Similar concept. He never does. He never does. And he doesn't measure this city. The angel measures it. And conceptually, the temple of God, where God is, where God dwells, where his light of his presence is, the same thing. Again, the height of the wall, 144 cubits, 12 times 12. 12,000 furlongs in length, height, and breadth of the city. Those same conceptual numbers, 12. We can see that as being a very important biblical number. You've got 3 times 4. 3, the number of the triune God. 4, the number of the earth. God's the number of the church, just like 7 is a number of completeness. 3 plus 4. These numbers that come up again and again and again. I want to go back to my images here and just talk about the things I had in mind. Here, with this, we've got that idea of the glory of God. The glory of God coming down upon the temple. And that same concept is conveyed in this image of Jerusalem as the glory of God and us being in it as part of the glory of God. An interesting thing to me, we go through this list of the stones, the gems that are part of the foundation of the city. What's not there? What's not there? Diamond. The only place diamond appears in the Bible in a positive sense is on the breastplate of Aaron's, drawing a blank on the name, the chest piece that he wore with the 12 stones. There's diamond on that, but there's no diamond here. It's all of these other stones and gems. And the reason I bring that up is diamond is something that really, in value and worth compared to these other stones, isn't very valuable. It's very common. The market was cornered on it by De Beers and roads. The market was cornered on it. They made it impossible for anybody else to have access to it, made it illegal, basically, through some maneuvering, and used a very common stone. It's very pretty, very shiny, clear, all of those things, and get the world to chase after it because they could control it. But really, compared to these other things, especially things like emeralds and rubies, it has very little value at all. But we chase after it and view it as being valuable, kind of like all those things that go along with the great prostitute and the chasing after materialism, kind of like fiat currency that's made to be something that it is not really. Okay, we're going to stop there with part 1. We're going to jump back in next time with part 2, beginning with verse 22. This is Matthias 76. Together, we are decoding the deception. God bless and have a great day.